Welcome, everyone. As Robin mentioned, my name is Chandni Navalka. I'm the Associate Director for the International Land Conservation Network and Land and Water at the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy. I'm on today from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and thrilled to see colleagues joining us from around the globe. I'm really glad to be hosting this webinar today on other effective area-based conservation measures in Korea, China, and Japan, and how they can contribute to achieving 30 by 30. Because this is such a highly relevant and timely topic, around the globe, governments and their partners in the private, non-governmental, academic, indigenous, and local community sectors who are advancing land conservation efforts in their places are exploring how to identify, designate, monitor, and report on OECMs and their outcomes for biodiversity conservation. The speakers who are joining us today will share experiences from countries in Asia who are really leading the way in this important effort. And I think that our global community of practice has a lot to learn from the examples that will be shared here today, and to connect the efforts that are happening from South Africa to Canada to Japan on how to understand the role of OECMs in contributing to 30 by 30. So with that, I'll hand it over to Shenmin Liu, ILCN's regional representative for Asia, to begin the webinar. Shenmin, over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Chani, for the introduction and this opportunity for me to organize today's webinar. And thanks to the audience, I see audience across the globe to join us today. My name is Shenmin Liu. As Chani mentioned, I'm the regional representative for Asia at ILCN. I'm also the director of Siwu Nature Park in Hangzhou, China, managing a bamboo forest biodiversity restoration project, which is also a potential OECM site in China. So OECM is a very popular term in current in today's world, and is actually emerged in response to the need to recognize diverse approach to achieving conservation outcomes. This concept was first introduced in CBD COP10 in 2010 in Japan, and is further emphasized in Target 3 of the Kunming-Montreal GBF in 2022. So OECMs refer to land stewardship and management strategies beyond protected areas that directly or indirectly safeguard biodiversity, as well as the cultural, spiritual, and socio-economic values of local communities. And in today's webinar, we are very lucky to have a researcher and practitioner from China, Japan, and South Korea to share the progress on OECM in each region. First, let me briefly introduce our three presenters today. They are Yiyun Sun at International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN China Country Office, and Dr. Michael Nishi at United Nations University in Japan, and Dr. Hak-Yang Hyo at Korea National Park Service. So without further ado, let's hear from their sharing. Our first speaker today is Yiyun Sun. She is Program Officer of IUCN China Office with a background of urban planning and environmental protection. She focuses on the protected areas and OECMs, nature-based solutions, urban biodiversity, and sustainable development. So Yiyun, please take away.
Thank you, Shenmin, for the introduction. I will share my screen to start. Okay. So it's my honor to be here today to introduce a little bit about the OECM and also the development and the progress in China. I'm Yiyun from IUCN China office, and I'm also the focal point of the OECM program officer within the IUCN in China. Firstly, as IUCN is the OECM is originally a concept that is developed by IUCN WCPA. Let me firstly have a very general introduction of its definition, types, and criteria. We can see that the definition of OECM, the formal definition is released on the CBD COP14 resolution 14.8. It is a geographically defined area other than a protected area, which is governed and managed in ways that achieve positive and sustained long-term outcomes for the institute conservation of biodiversity with associated ecosystem functions and services, and where applicable, cultural, spiritual, social, economic, and other locally relevant values. And there are 3 hierarchies of the OECM types. And as the main differences between OECM and PA is that OECM are normally has less intention to conserve biodiversity, but for protected areas, the primary conservation objective is to conserve the biodiversity. And for OECM, we can divide it into 3 types, from primary to secondary and ancillary. For primary, it always have the unique cases areas with a primary conservation objective, which meets the definition of PA. But as the government authorities might unable to secure the PA designation or prefer not to be recognized as a PA, they choose to become an OECM rather than a PA. And for secondary type, the secondary conservation type of OECM, the biodiversity outcome is always as a secondary objective. There are some cases like community conserved areas, watershed protection areas, and maybe the long-term fishery closures. And for the ancillary conservation OECMs, the biodiversity conservation always not be the main purpose of these sites, but accidentally they have protected some biodiversity outcomes, such as the secret sites, military areas, and other no-go areas. And there are 4 criteria for the OECM, which has been already defined in the definition of the OECM. And IUCN WCPA has also developed a site-level screening tool for OECM. This is a 3 steps flowchart to screening whether a site could be identified as the OECM. Firstly, to screen of the proposed OECM, and we need to focus on 2 criteria. Firstly, the site is not a PA. And secondly, there is a reasonable likelihood that the site supports an important biodiversity values. And the second step is to find the consent for full assessment. It might comes from the governing authority, the indigenous peoples and local communities, or other right holders. And the steps 1 and step 2 can be carried out in any order or combined, but the step 3 should only implemented after the step 1 and 2 have been completed. The step 3 is the full assessment, which has 6 criteria. The site is a geographically defined area. The site is confirmed to support important biodiversity values, and institutions or mechanisms exist to govern and manage the site. Governance and management of the site achieve or are expected to achieve the institute conservation of important biodiversity values. the in-situ conservation of important biodiversity value is expected to be for the long term. And governance and management arrangements address equity considerations. And the outputs of these 3 steps are potential OECM, candidate OECM, and finally the formal OECM, which next could be reported to the World Database OECM. And next, I will introduce the development of OECM in China. And as you can see in this timeline, the OECM has been firstly mentioned as a term in Aichi target in 2010, and in this more than 10 years, it has been developed very fast, especially after the CBD COP14 and the CBD COP15. In Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, we can see in the target 3 that the PAs and OECMs are the mainstay for the protecting the 30% of the planet before 2030. And last year, we are very happy to establish the China OECM expert working group and drafted a stock-taking report on OECM in China. And this expert working group has been established in May 2023. We have invited experts from different institutions and also from the authorities like Ministry of Natural Resources, National Forestry and Grassland Administration, and Ministry of Ecological and Environment. And we also invite some experts who are familiar with this topic. After the establishment of experts working group, we have some outcomes like localization of the OECM report into Chinese. These 2 reports, recognizing and reporting OECM set level tool, has already been released on our IUCN library, and you can find it from the online platform. And currently, we are also trying our best to writing this stock-taking report on OECM in China. It hasn't been finalized yet, but we are expected to release this report before September. And it will be also a bilingual, a Chinese version and also an English version. And you can see in this table of contents, we have different dimensions. Firstly, an introduction of OECM, and secondly, the Chinese policies and legal framework available for OECM. And in the third part, we have solicited some case studies, which can be potentially a potential OECM in China. And we also divided them into 4 governance types. That is the governance by government, private governance, community governance, and shared governance, which is the governance type of IUCN protected area. And in the last part, we have some reflections and suggestions for the next step of the OECM development in China. And in this part, I will briefly introduce some potential OECM in China. Firstly, let me introduce the PA system in China, because today maybe there are many audience that are not from China, and it is very clear that China is now developing a PA system with national parks as the mainstay and supported by natural reserves and supplemented by natural parks. And we have 5 national parks, which had announced during the COP15, and there are more on the way. And China has established 11,800 protected natural areas of various type and various levels, accounting for about 18% of the land area. And the scientific eco-environmental conservation red lines have also been developed to ensure the national eco-environmental security. And the total area covered by this eco-red line for ecological protection is about 3 million square kilometer, and accounting for more than 30% of the land area. And so we can see that the eco-red line is a very strategic method for China to achieve the 30 by 30 targets in this circumstance. And this diagram shows that the relationship between the eco-red lines and the PAs. The dark green means the core zone in PAs, and the light green means the general zones in PAs. But the eco-red lines are larger than these PAs, and these white areas are potentially could be the OECMs if it is if they meet the 6 criteria of the OECM. And this is a study research by Professor Ouyang Zhiyun and other researchers. They have suggested a PA system compared to the original PA system. You can see that the top 3 of them have already been accepted by our policy, and they are the mainstay and supportment of the PA system in China. And the key wildlife habitats and germplasm resource reserve, as well as ecological function reserves, could also be a very important PA system or OECM. And these are one of our outcomes from the stock taking report. We have solicited and summarized the potential OECMs based on the relevant policies. And we can see that there are many different departments or ministries that are responsible for the OECMs, or the areas could potentially be OECMs. For example, the MEE, Ministry of Ecological Environment, they are responsible to report the Kunming-Montreal GBF, the implementation of the GBF, and it is also have the role to supervise the Ministry of National Resources and other environmental protection issues. And for Ministry and Natural Resources, this is also the state member of the IUCN in China. It represents the spatial planning system, and also the eco-red lines are delineated by the Ministry of National Resources. And for NFGA, National Forestry and Grassland Administration, they are more down to earth. So many specific sites for example, the grassland and also the forest trees, and also wildlife habitats belongs to this areas belongs to the management of the NFGA. And Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, they are responsible for the food and plants that what we eat. So, for example, the conservation of the aquatic biological resources and aquatic genetic resources, and also the fishing farms belongs to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs. And the waters or the drinking waters, they are under the management of Ministry of Water Resources. So it is very complicated system for OECM to find who is the main responsibility authority. And what we are trying to do is to establish a mechanism which involves all these relative ministries, or at least the institutions affiliated to this ministry, and trying to find a consensus of which ministry will be will place the main role of the identification and also reporting of the OECMs. And for the potential OECM in China, we have divided them into four a table like this. It could be divided into a 3x4 table. So the governance by government and primary conservation, and governance by government of the secondary conservation. And I will take some examples of each, some of this table in the later part. Firstly, the state forest farms. It is a primary conservation and governance by government. Let me take Jingxi Forest Farm in Beijing as an example. It has more than 100 species of wild animals and more than 100 species of birds, 7 species of amphibious reptiles. This farm is located in the west of Beijing in Mentougou area, and at the governing authority is the administrative office of Jingxi Forest Farm and Beijing Municipal Forestry and Parks Bureau. The farm has enhanced its forest resilience and increased the forest coverage, also have the biodiversity conservation outcomes and the public involvement supported by the Shanshui Conservation Center help. Sorry. The state forest, the ownership of this state forest belongs to Beijing Municipal, and also it is not yet a protected area. We would regard it as an potential OECM in this part. And I will also take a shared governance example, the habitat of the Bayer's leaf monkey in Mangxinghe River, Yunnan province. It is also a primary conservation managed by different shared authorities. For example, the association, the governing authority of it is the Association for Protecting the Nature of Mangxinghe River. And it's a membership association so that the villagers could join this association and become one of the patrolling, and also becomes the active protectioner of this habitat. And it also enhances the monitoring and community involvement through different types of the conservation actions. And it has really it has achieved a big success of the protection of the Fair's leaf monkey, which has already reached the 500 individuals across 6 groups.
Ian, you have about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. So I will just briefly introduce the other cases. This one is the collaborative governance of the Peking University campus. So that we can know that even in the city areas, we could have some OECMs, and even in the campus, the small area just occupy 50 hectares. There could be some efforts to do, for example, to have the near natural restoration and monitoring and the innovative model for biodiversity protection to achieve the sustainable and long-term conservation outcomes. And also for civil protected areas, these protected areas could be governance by non-profit organizations like Shanxi Heshun Leopard civil protected areas, or companies like the Petroleum Corporation. For example, the CNPC Oilfield Biodiversity Reserve at Heilongjiang Province. This site is originally a mining site, but after the restoration, they still continues to doing the conservation actions like installation of the water catchment system, or planting the trees, and helps the monitoring of the birds. So it could have the the CNPC has identified them as their company's voluntary biodiversity site. And also the community-based natural conservation areas. For example, the Vatika Guangxi Conservation Area at Pingtan. It is not the main conservation species is not the animals, but the tree. It's a very critically endangered tree called Vatika Guangxi. And the villagers protect these trees because of some traditional knowledge. So at last, we've summarized this table of the potential China OECMs. And within the eco-red line, we could find these types of the potential OECM areas. For example, the public welfare forest, key habitat, important wetland, drinking water source zone, general grassland. And outside the eco-red line, there are also OECM areas, just as I showed. And for the secondary and ancillary conservation, we have some ecological space outside the ERL, for example, the general wetlands, the cultural heritage site, the recreation and tourist area, and also agricultural spaces, for example, the marine ranch and urban space, just like the Peking University campus. And this this column is the more or less like a top-down view, but this column is the voluntary biodiversity contribution area from the bottom-up view. For example, the civil protected areas, rural community protected area, secret mountains and lakes, and ecological farms, industrial parks by companies. And here are some next step plans for our work of the OECM expert working group in China. Firstly, we would like to modify and proofread this stock taking report and published it on our IUCN library. Then we are going to discuss with our expert working group about the term, definition, and criteria of OECM China and compile the IUCN China OECM toolkit, just like what in Korea and other countries, and screen the potential OECM sites, and explore a domestic mechanism and process for the identification and reporting, and dissemination and communication at regional level and international level, and jointly discuss the OECM international report mechanism with our IUCN International Protected and Conservation Area team, and try to report a batch of China OECM sites to the World Database of OECM. So that's all my presentation. Thanks for your attention, and I'm welcome for questions.
Great, thank you so much. Please feel free to type all your questions in the Q&A box, and we will answer them in the end of when all presentations finish. And thanks so much, Ian, for the overview and also the progress which is happening in China right now. And I'm very looking forward to the reports soon. And well, I'll definitely share with the network as well. And now let me introduce our next speaker, Dr. Maiko Nishi. She is a research fellow of United Nations University, engaging in research and capacity development for the International Partnership for the Satoyama Initiative. Her area of interest includes socio-ecological system governance, regional planning, and agricultural land policy. In particular, her interest lies in multi-level governance, land tenure and use, and subjectivities of institutional actors in governing natural resources. So Dr. Michael, please share your presentation now. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. So let me share my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, based in the presenter view, can you change it? You can type use slideshow. Maybe that will Oh, perfect. Yeah.
It is okay. Is this presentation mode? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share the current state and also progress of OECM in Japan. So related to the concept of OECMs, our institute, United Nations University Institute of Advanced Study of Sustainability, UNUIAS, is hosting the Secretariat for the International Partnership for the Satoyama Initiative, in which we promote the concept of socio-ecological production landscape and seascapes, called SEPOs. So given some similarity between OECMs and also SEPOs, I'd also like to share some perspective from the Satoyama Initiative in terms of the OECMs in Japan. So in my presentation, I will first try to give some overview of the Japanese policy to move towards the achievement of 30 by 30 target. And then I will share the current status of OECMs in Japan, And finally, I will try to share some insights into ways forward given the relevance of Satoyama and Satomi or sepals to OECM. So first, I'll give the context. I would like to show some Japan's progress in policy making concerning biodiversity, which has been made in tandem with the trajectory of the international biodiversity policies. To be aligned with the Aichi biodiversity targets, the fifth NBSAP was developed in 2012, and while being informed by the national and international assessment works on biodiversity, like IPBES Global Assessment, Global Biodiversity Outlooks, and Japan Biodiversity Outlooks, Japan's government started to study the process of developing the new NBSAP in 2021. And particularly for the 30 by 30 target, with reference to OEWG processes for the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, and also our international commitment to 30 by 30, Japan joined the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, HAC, in January 2021, when it was officially launched to the jointly advocate for the world to adopt a new science-based 30 by 30 target. And furthermore, in response to G7 2030 Nature Compact that was adopted at the G7 Commonwealth Summit in 2021, as the G7 leaders' commitment to 30 by 30, Japan also developed the 30 by 30 roadmap in 2022. And then the new NBSF was developed last year to be aligned with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And building on this, a new Biodiversity Promotion Act was established very recently to promote OECMs and also related activities. So at the first concrete step toward 30 by 30, Ministry of the Environment Japan, along with relevant ministry, published 30 by 30 roadmap in 2022 to outline the action needed to achieve the 30 by 30 target in Japan, including the certification of conserved area to be identified and also promoted as OECMs. And given the coverage of protected area in land and sea, which are 20%, 20.5% and 30.3% respectively as of August 2021. The key measures were not only to expand the protected area and also improve the management quality of these areas, but also build a flexible system of OECM to allow for more opportunities for a broader range of stakeholders to engage in biodiversity conservation. And as a process of developing national system of OECMs, Japan ran a trial scheme in 2022, and building on this trial, the certification of over 100 OECM sites were targeted for the first year of its actual implementation in 2023. And after the intermediate assessment to be conducted in 2026 and 2027, 30 by 30 target is expected to be achieved in time. So in addition to these two key measures, namely the expansion and also improvement of protected areas, and also certification of OECMs, some supporting measures were also provided in this roadmap. In particular, to promote a concrete action laid out in the roadmap, Japan launched the 30 by 30 Alliance for Biodiversity, which is a multi-stakeholder platform to effectively promote the voluntary action of each stakeholder by strengthening their area-based activities and also disseminating the leading example contributing to 30 by 30 target. And other supporting measures include the development of online mapping tool and also incentive measures that are being considered and also developed currently. So the new NBSAP developed last year also specify the 30 by 30 target. So overall, it consists of 5 strategies to achieve nature positive by 2030. And each strategy sets 3 state-oriented targets and also several action-oriented targets. And under this overall framework, our 30 by 30 target has been specified as one of the action-oriented targets under the strategy of restoration of healthy ecosystems. So in order to develop and manage OECM's system in Japan, our study committee consisting of about 10 experts, in addition to the Secretariat at Ministry of Environment Japan, was established in December 2020. And this committee has gone through the deliberation process to consider the area to be considered as OECMs, and also certification criteria and procedures, and also developed and examined the result of trial scheme of certifying OECM sites. And in terms of the area to be considered as OECMs, they confirmed that various places other than protected area contribute to biodiversity conservation, for instance, by ensuring ecological connectivity. And furthermore, in some areas, even within a protected area, the initiative by the private sector and other stakeholders actually contribute to the biodiversity conservation. So with this understanding, the concept of sites in harmony with nature was put forward as somehow similar concept of OECM. They are the area that contribute to biodiversity conservation as a result of the initiative by the private sector and other stakeholders, like corporate green spaces, sustainable landscapes, and urban green spaces. And organizations and individuals, like business corporations, associations, and also local governments, can propose the area where biodiversity is being conserved through the private sector initiative for the sites in harmony with nature. And based on the screening of the application, if the criteria are met, Ministry of the Environment as a certifier would certify the area as sites in harmony with nature. So for the registration for the international database, the area excluding the overlap with the protected area would be registered as a formal OECM internationally. So in such a way, this system can directly contribute to the global Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So the criteria for the sites in harmony with nature were developed with reference to the ICN guiding methodology. So the criteria are categorized into 4, including boundary and names, governance, value of biodiversity, and also conservation outcomes. Particularly in regard to the criteria on biodiversity values, there are 9 types of values, and at least one of them should be identified in the sites. So these values are associated with area, like the areas with the already recognized importance for the biodiversity conservation, and also the area with unique secondary nature. And also species-related values include the rare and plant and animal species, and values related to function include importance for animal life history and function as buffers or connectivity. So after the trial stage, last year, 2 rounds of screening were conducted. And originally, 100 sites were target number of the sites to be certified through the system. But already for the first round, 122 sites were certified. And in addition, 62 more sites were certified for the second round. So in total, 184 sites were certified last year. So as you can see this map, the certified sites extend from the north to south in Japan, but more sites were applied and also are certified in Kanto region, in and around the Tokyo area, and also Kansai region in and around Osaka area, where many private actors are actively engaging in conservation activities. Also, the applicants include a business corporation, civil organization, local government, and individuals. But more than 50%, close to 60% were business corporation. And the areal size of each site is also diverse, but many of the sites are larger than 1 hectare, but also smaller than 100 hectare. Also, the biodiversity values identified in these sites also varies, but many of them are related to rare species and various ecosystem services, and also secondary nature. And to further promote the biodiversity conservation activity by the diverse stakeholders, a new law called Act on Promotion of Activities for Enhancing Biodiversity in Local Communities, a so-called Biodiversity Promotion Act, was very recently established. Japan already has a basic act on biodiversity that was established in 2008 to set forth the basic principle of the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, and stipulate the responsibility of national local governments, business operators, citizens, and other private organizations. And under this law, currently Japan has a new NBSAP to achieve nature positive by 2030. And under this policy, a new law was developed by replacing the previous act on the promotion of regional cooperation for biodiversity. And also there are a number of laws and regulations that provide individual mechanism for biodiversity conservation, like National Parks Act and Nature Conservation Act. But the new law allows for more streamlined support through the coherent procedures to promote biodiversity conservation by various stakeholders. So there are 2 key measures under this law, this new law. One is the certification system that also institutionalized the system for sites in harmony with nature that was implemented last year. There are 2 planning schemes in this system. First, companies and other private sector entities can formulate a plan for promotion of biodiversity conservation to be certified by a competent minister. And secondly, local government, municipalities can develop a plan for biodiversity conservation in collaboration with various other local entities for certification by the competent minister. So previously, only the second planning scheme was available, but the new law added the first planning scheme, so that activity independently conducted by the private sector without the coordination by the local government can be facilitated through the certification system. Also, if they are approved, the certified body can be entitled to some specific exceptions, allowing for one-stop procedures or simplified procedure for the issue under the different relevant laws. For example, previously to deal with invasive alien species, they needed to take some administrative procedures under a certain law related to invasive alien species. But with this new system, they can be exempted from such procedures. And in terms of the distinction between this new certification system under the new law and the system for sites in harmony with nature implemented last year, the new one is more inclusive of certifying not only the places or areas, but also activities associated with the areas. So under the system for the sites in harmony with nature, only the places where biodiversity is being conserved through the private initiative were certified, so as to promote activity to maintain biodiversity. But the new planning scheme is designed to certify the activities promoting a wide range of initiatives, including not only maintenance, but also restoration and also creation of biodiversity. So the restoration or new efforts to generate biodiversity can be also promoted through the new system. Another key measure under the new law is an agreement system. So with the second planning scheme, where municipality develop a biodiversity promotion plan in collaboration with other local stakeholders, certified municipality can now make an agreement with landowner for the purpose of a promotion of conservation activity within the area. So in many cases, landowners may not be directly involved in the planned activity for biodiversity conservation, and such a landowner could be many in the area. And if the party agree on certain condition and also pursue the agreed matters, longer term and more stable conservation activity could be facilitated through this agreement system. So now I'd like to also briefly explore ways forward by kind of talking about somehow the similarity between the OECM and also our initiative, the SATEM initiative, and also international partnership for the SATEM initiative, IPSI. As you might know, the SATEM initiative was jointly initiated by the UNU and also Ministry of the Environment Japan as a global effort to realize society in harmony with nature. And this initiative built on the concept of socio-ecological production landscape and seascape, SEPOS, which are the area with the production activities like agriculture, forestry, not only supporting the well-being and also livelihood of local community, but also help to maintain biodiversity and also sustainable provision of ecosystem services. So in order to operationalize this concept for policymaking and management practices, IPSI was launched during the CBD COP10 as a global platform to promote networking and collaboration on the SEPOS management, particularly to contribute to the second CBD objective, sustainable use of biodiversity. And started with the 51 founding member organization, this partnership has been continuously growing, now consisting more than 300 organizations, including national, local governments, NGOs, private sector, and academia, and also indigenous people and local communities. So these are members dedicated to working together to realize the vision of the SATEM initiative. So as part of the effort in IPSI, we have been collecting the case studies on the SEPOS management from the member organization. And in addition to continuously updating the case study database on our website, we have also been publishing our annual series of case study compilation since 2015 to collect and disseminate the knowledge and also lessons related to our SEPOS management, and also provide policy recommendation. And each year we choose our topic, which is timely and relevant to the international processes on biodiversity. And in particular, the fourth volume of this series focused on the sustainable use of biodiversity in SEPOS and its contribution to effective area-based conservation, aiming to contribute to the Aichi Biodiversity Target 11. So in this volume, we identified that SEPOS could be a good candidate for OECMs. So there are 5 types of area of IPS case studies where SEPOS are being managed, including, for example, first, the area entirely within the protected area, and secondly, the area that partially include protected or designated area, and third, the area corresponding to the communally designated area, and fourth, the area outside of the designated area, and finally, the area that include all these types. So IPSI consists of the member organization, not really the area or places, but the sites managed by the member organization could be also OECMs. For instance, among the 184 sites certified as the sites in harmony with nature last year, we found several sites are actually managed by our IPSI members. One of them is the Chupa Forest, Chupa no Mori, which has been managed by Chuetsu Pulp and Paper Corporate, which is a IPSI member organization as a business corporate. This site is relatively small, 3.1 hectare, located in Toyama Prefecture, and it is a company-owned forest with a variety of vegetation. And it used to be a arboretum that was used by its group company, but they redeveloped the area as a recreational and educational site. And some facilities like a walking trail and information boards were installed, and here nature study sessions are regularly held for elementary students in collaboration with the prefecture and also city governments. And also the site is open to local people so that they can enjoy walking and also gathering bamboo shoots and also wild vegetables. So in addition to the management of this site, the company has also engaged in several initiatives contributing to biodiversity conservation. For instance, in order to address the issue of abundant bamboo forests leading to biodiversity decline and declined water recharge function of forest, and also increased risk of landslides, the company started to make efforts in effectively using domestic bamboo materials in 1998. And through trials and errors, so they established a bamboo collection system in collaboration with bamboo shoot farmers and also chip mills, and started to produce and sell paper made from 100% Japanese bamboo in 2009. So they have developed various paper products and sometimes joined exhibitions and also promotional events. Also, this company has engaged in another initiative called Satayama Monogatari, Satayama Stories, which is the name of the printing paper underpinned by the two mechanisms. The first mechanism is to maximize the use of thinned wood through a credit system by managing the credit based on the amount of thinned wood to be purchased and also the quantity of printed paper to be sold. So by promoting the utilization of the thinned wood, they contribute to the forest conservation in the country. Another mechanism is to use this donation that is included in the price of the paper to support the organization engaging in conservation activities in Satayama landscape, so that they can contribute to the preservation of such environment through the different stakeholders with rich for the rich biodiversity. So besides managing the site certified as a site in harmony with nature, its members are also dedicated to engage in various biodiversity-friendly initiatives, and such effort could be recognized and also promoted through the Japanese OECM system, including the new systems under the new law. So with this understanding, we'd like to also further promote the knowledge sharing and also exchange lessons learned from the underground activity by various stakeholders within and also beyond the IPSI networks. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Michael. And especially the Satayama in Japan, I think it can be a very good example for most Asian countries. Because like, for example, in my nature park, which I'm managing, we also have lots of abandoned bamboo shoots. So I think I learned a lot from your example. And also Japan is very advanced in the 30 by 30 roadmap and also the OECM policies. I think it can also set a very good example for other countries, especially in Asia. Now let's turn to our last speaker, Dr. Hak-Yang Hyo. He is working for Korea National Park Service as a senior research fellow in National Park Research Institute. He has plenty of research experience related to PAs, particularly in PA management category system and management effectiveness evaluation. he has recently developed a national roadmap for 30 by 30 target and worked on the IUCN FP project to identify potential OECMs in Korea. So let's hear the story in Korea. Thank you so much. You can share
Hi, everyone.
your
Thank you very
screen.
much
Yeah.
for your kind introductions. So can you hear me? It's okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I will share my slides. Okay, let me start my presentation. I'm very pleased to introduce our experience so how to identify potential OECMs in Korea. So my presentation mainly consists of many three parts. So first one is how to identify potential OECMs in Korea, and then we can see some sample OECM site we found, and then I will explain some potential role of OECMs to achieve 30 by 30 targets in Korea. This slide shows some our research overview. So the purpose of our project is to raise the public awareness on OECMs and then to try to identify potential types of OECMs in Korea, and we try to develop the national process for recognizing OECMs. So in order to do so, on behalf of Ministry of Environment, Korea National Park Service leads the project in cooperation with IUCN. So Korea Protective Forum and I think Greenpeace Expert Group, Eagle Group, so provide some valuable contribution through the national consultation process. So we have some national consultation procedure. So we have the Korea Protective Forum composed of the government, all relevant government bodies and some experts from the academic side, research institute, and some from NGO side. So we have meetings 4 times per year, and we operate some capacity building workshops for experts. And next month we will make some second capacity building workshop for kind of cultivating mentors to strengthening really implementing the OECMs in Korea. So in order for raising public awareness, so we had some briefing session for public persons. So introduce the concept of OECMs, and we have some expanding the concept to the outside of a protected community conservation society. And we have some small meetings separately. So stakeholder meeting, more focusing on the stakeholders in the governing authorities in potential OECM site. So through this process, we can introduce the OECMs and then can reach some consensus to try to certify as OECM that they're on site. So in order to coincide the consistent approaches, so we made some Korean OECM toolkit. It contained the global standard and try to reflect some Korean characteristics and some potential as a guide. So we provided some information on potential OECM sites and provide some procedures and consideration points. And through this process, we developed Korean terminology of OECMs. In order to increase the friendly perception and acceptability for various stakeholders, most of the stakeholders got some victim mentality. They get some use restrictions for conservation reason. So they have some concerns on the regulations. So this kind of the familiar word, so could may reduce the concerns on the regulations for stakeholders. So the consensus word is nature coexistence areas. The Korean name is 자연 공존지역. So we tentatively use this terminology. And we setting up some key consideration point for identifying OECMs in Korea. So first one is we align with the global standard, and we try to establish a broad participation network and to consider voluntary certification system and supporting system for long-term outcomes. And so in terms of the biodiversity value, so we review the various aspects, including surrounding areas, so such as connectivity or integrity. So we try to establish integrated database system, so the protected area database and add the OECM database together. So we using the global standard is similar as the global standard criteria. So just we try to simplify the criteria, the 4 criteria for screening process, and additionally two criteria for full assessment. This criteria in line with global standard. And this slide shows us how to understand to implement the global questions or criteria, or to implementing national perspective. So we explain how to understand and some provided some the reference database and so how to answer the relevant questions of criteria. In a similar process, including the preparation stage, 4 steps. Through screening process, there are the various types of the potential OECMs you have. So first one is there is some gap of KDPA. So because some local government didn't report some protected or some potential OECM sites because they especially the locally designated areas. And current KDPA is integrated national database system. It doesn't cover the international and regional measures such as proposal of World Heritage Site, proposal of Biosphere Reserve, and some flyway site, according to EAFP. There are and other things, private conservation approaches such as National Nature Trust or business sectors, and some conservation fundraising foundation, etc. And another thing is regarding the ecosystem service, water resource management. So this is water source protection and the pollution control and agricultural reservoir, etc. There are lots of development restriction areas for various reasons, and other type is sustainable use site, for example, the ecotourism site and the recreation forest, etc. And other thing is the military reason and the research and academic site, and family forest, etc. This is the potential types of OECMs in Korea. So the conservation forest and conservation augmented areas is very appropriate as OECMs. Both are managed by the National Nature Trust. And to hold this, the potential type, we review the appropriateness through the expert questionnaire survey and the consultation process. So all is proper for at this moment, proper for the potential OECMs. So the national recreation areas, traditional temple preservation zone and temple forest, and buffer zone of the internationally designated areas some uninhabited island sites, some protected water, and some zones from the marine spatial plans. Urban areas in green areas and leisure sites. Let's see some sample OECMs in Korea. We just incubating stage. So we made some simple application reporting forms, just divided the necessary and optional field. So simplify the reporting forms, and then the governing authority expected to fill out these forms and submit it, and then review together with the expert, and then integrate the GIS database together and delivered to the UNEP WCMC in order to register to the WD OECMs. So currently we have 4 potential candidate OECM sites. The first one is the DMZ Global Trust Choron Plainland. This is managed by, this is the conservation asset of National Nature Trust located in Choron. It's very close to the DMZ areas. This is a small site, but however, this small site provides some important habitat for white-necked crane and red-crowned crane. The National Nature Trust will purchase this land funded by Land Research Korea. Yes, 80% is the business sector is donated, and through the Global Trust Fund, so the 20% is purchase this land. So in cooperation with the local community, the Crane Protection Association in local areas, and they manage it together. So they provide some ecotourism programs in winter seasons, and using the crane image, they branding their rice production. And National Nature Trust plans to expanding it to the other zoning areas, and through the fundraising, this Global Trust Fund. So they make the surrounding areas to the public property. And next one is the Karatushi-Shanodar. It's a kind of the monastic areas. This site is a conservation agreement site of National Nature Trust areas located in Sangju. It's the middle part of the Korea. So this is the religious purpose. So the direct link with the Roman Catholics, and they ensure and secure the spiritual atmosphere with nature. Next one is academic forest, the research forest managed by Busan National University. They provided some interpretation programs to the public and student and professors. Let me finalize this session. The third party is the role of OECMs to achieve 30 by 30 targets. Lastly, our government constructs new MB subs, and then new 2030 protected area roadmaps. So that two strategy and roadmap were embedded into OECM concepts and the criteria we suggested. So according to the 2030 National Conservation Roadmap, so we setting up the protection targets. So we setting up the separate target for OECMs, 10% for OECM, 20% for protected areas. I mean, in terms of the terrestrial land areas, and the terrestrial marine areas is totally 30%. Is the discussion on how to divide the separate target, setting up separate target. So we established some outcome indicators, so the quantitative outcomes target and qualitative target as well. So This slide shows some anticipated the effects by identifying potential OECM sites. So at this moment, we collect some spatial database around 18 types of OECMs to collect the whole spatial data together. But however, we have some data deficiency and some data problems, so we can use this slide, this estimation purpose only. So if we identify the potential OECMs, so we will increase the protection level at some more than 20%. And in terms of KBA site protection, so we can increase some more than 40% the increase of protection. And the first grade of the ecological map to increase that as well. So in terms of the connectivity issue, so PARC's connectiveness indicator is one of the complementary indicator of the Kunming-Montreal GBF monitoring framework. So using this indicator, we can increase the 0.2 point, increasing the connectivity. There is some huge challenges that we identify. So potential OECM that in Korean context, we have some lots of private owned land in protected area. Similarly, potential OECM areas is got lots of private land, owned land is more than 50% is owned by the private sector. So it's probably may cause the need more effort to conserve their areas. And fortunately, there are some opportunity. So the first grade of ecological map, according to the first grade of ecological map, the not covered by currently protected areas. So more than 70% is owned by government side. So it's a bit good for the implementing the conservation effort. This slide shows some future works to implementing 2030 roadmap. So in terms of OECM works, so we try to set up the general legal base for systematic and consistent approach. And we activate enhancing pilot project for focusing KBA site, protect KBA site, and government owned land. And we still, currently we try to policy KOECM toolkit version 2.0, reflecting the private stage is lesson known, and finish this month, and we will provide a proper guidance for systematic identification. And enhance our cooperation and partnership. So we need to construct a biodiversity partnership, 30 by 30. It's similar as Japan's approach is 30 by 30 alliance, similar as that kind of alliance. We plan to make some kind of the partnership or mainstreaming the OECMs and nature conservation. So I mentioned some data gaps in KDPA, so we need to improve the KDPA systems and add some KD OECM data together. Before wrapping my presentation, I would like to suggest some discussion points. The first one is designating, establishing, or identifying and recognizing. This question is based on some concerns to create new OECMs, so might cause some regulation of conservation efforts, possibly just easily create OECMs rather than protected areas. And secondly is, so if we identify OECMs, so it means that the OECM site already got some effective management system and equitable governance system. So why they need additional incentives? That kind of questions here raised. And similarly, new legal frameworks, whether needed or not. So, and last one is when we implementing the OECMs, so the top-down process is first, yes, government-owned land first, or so to cultivating the private culture, private conservation culture, so to encourage the private conservation efforts to the first. So that's the kind of the consideration points we need to consider to implementing the OECM concepts in national context. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Hae-Young. I think Korea also set a very good example and for other countries to learn from. And those are very into details. So I definitely learned a lot from your presentation. So now welcome Yiyun and Michael to turn on your camera. We received lots of questions from the audience as well. I think I saw one from Carolina. Yiyun, you already answered it, but I think it's a very interesting question, maybe for Michael and Hae-Young to share your opinion as well, because we have the PA system already, and some OECMs already have good biodiversity outcomes and protection goals. So why some sites want to be certified as OECMs rather than a protected area? So you already posted your answer, but you can feel free to answer it again. And also Michael and Hae-Young, is this situation common in your country as well? So what's the incentives for some areas to be certified as OECM rather than PA?
Yes, just as I answered in the text box, for some sites in China, although their objectives are meet the primary conservation objectives, but they are not able or not willing to become an PA because the process to become the PA is relatively complicated, and as PA is administration is managed by administration governments. You need to establish like a bureau, or you need to fund more resources on financial fundings or human resources to maintain the PA system. And for OECM, it's more or less like a voluntary sites that communities or private sectors or civil societies could contribute to the conservation outcomes by themselves, and they face less, they may have less regulation and supervision rather than a PA system.
Yeah, okay. Michael, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I think the situation would be similar, rather than kind of going through some bureaucracy and procedures. So now the policy and also systems are being developed for them flexible and also like a voluntary kind of kind of recognition of such kind of conservation efforts as OECMs. So I think kind of a stakeholder are somehow taking advantage of such kind of new system to be more recognized and also, yeah, managed in such a way.
Yeah, great. And Hae-Young, do you want to add to that? Because I see especially the private ownership, the potential for OECMs is the percentage is huge in Korea. So I'm also interested in that. Do you want to add anything?
So it's a very similar situation in Korea, the same as in Japan and China. So I think it's I personally believe so. So primary conservation purpose is to better to designate to protect areas rather than OECM, I frankly say. But however, the OECM is a voluntary process, kind of the voluntary process. So it's for the stakeholders is they can choose some better way to their own land management. So the OECM provided some kind of the option to contribute to conservation efforts to the as a protected or OECMs.
I see. I see. I saw a question from Anton too, especially for the Japan case, because lots of the OECMs are business-owned sites. So I'm also wondering, not only for business, what's the incentive in your region, like for either companies or privately owned land or like universities, what's the incentive for them to be certified as OECMs? I think for company, because now not only the ESG, they require them to expose their biodiversity conservation plans so I think that might be an incentive for companies. So do you have anything to add? Like what kind of incentives you think for the sites to be certified as OECMs?
Thank you very much. I think the incentives and also motivation will be crucial to actually further kind of increase the OECM, of course, the area size, but also the quality. And I think one study also showed that actually the business corporations are planning to use such kind of or take advantage of their kind of certified kind of as OECM to kind of information kind of sharing and also dissemination and how good they are actually being active of the biodiversity conservation and also contribution to the society, and particularly if they are engaged in some CSR activity, so they can also further promote such activity based on the recognition, and also particularly concerned of the TNFD. So they are also trying to use kind of such kind of a certification for the kind of disclosure of their activities. So, but I think also for example, the universities, so actually they have already kind of preserved and also conserved the biodiversity within their campus also. So I think they are actually building on what they have been actually engaged in so far. So I think even the university's efforts to conserve biodiversity or kind of contribute to society could be also, if it is recognized as OECM, they can also further promote their activities. And yeah, particularly university also concerns somehow reputation for having some students also. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, in China, I know some NGOs are working with universities to build an alliance and to try to apply or to be certified as OECMs. So, Hak-Yang or Ian, do you want to add anything to that?
Actually, first of all, if they got some certification, that means they can certify their efforts, their contribution to conservation, and that they certify the approaches to conserve their own values, so including biodiversity value and sort of relevant values as well. So they can highlight their efforts and contributions. So that's the primary the incentives, and then and after the certification of the OECM, they can increase some awareness on their own value and their organizations, promoting their organizations' efforts in terms of business sector and university as well. So that is might enhancing the opportunity to cooperation and supporting system.
Great.
Yeah.
I see lots of new questions, but although we are reaching the end of the presentation, so let me see. There's one from He Siyuan, I think, because Michael, you mentioned the agricultural system. So I saw the countries have long history of agriculture. So do you think, what do you think of the potential of working landscapes or of agriculture becoming OECMs, and what are the key features agricultural systems should have to be identified as OECMs? I think, yeah, if you can share or answer that in like 1 minute, anyone want to answer that for agricultural lands to be certified as OECMs? Does anyone? Michael, you want to answer that?
Yeah, so yeah, I think agriculture could be sometimes controversial, like making some negative impacts on ecosystems. But I think it's important for food production and also our dietary kind of status. So I think if more biodiversity friendly and environmentally healthy agriculture is promoted, even in the private land and not necessarily in the protected area, I think there will be very positive kind of sustainability impacts on the society. So I think OECM as a system could be inclusive of such kind of production landscapes. So I think it would be also very helpful to promote such kind of more sustainable agriculture production systems, I think.
Great. Well, I have just one last question about IPLC's engagement in OECMs, because lots of areas are conserved by local communities, maybe a sacred land, or they're with long history of protection goals. So do you think they have incentive to be certified as OECMs? Or why should they be certified as OECMs? How to engage local communities in this process? Anyone wants to answer? One last question. Hak-Yang or Yi-Yin, do you want to like the engagement with local communities?
It's similar as the business sector and the universities. So through I think that's through the identification process. So this kind of process get provide some opportunity to revitalizing the local community get together, and they remind their own value together, and they work together. So that is kind of the including the social capital things, as well as the natural capital as well. So that is the main instinct, the value of the process to identify OECMs. And then if they got some various values, including the biodiversity value, they can get more to the wisely using the more chance to widely use and conserve their own village forest or village the own assets. So the more opportunity to cooperation.
Great. Perfect. So thank you so much. We're about 4 minutes past our the ending time. So thank you so much for the three of you for the wonderful presentation. And I believe like our audience definitely learned a lot from the experience from 3 countries. And I hope we can have this kind of communication or dialogue more in the future. And we also, ILCN is the platform for people to share their experience and cases. So please look forward to our following webinars, and all the materials recordings will be posted on ILCN's website as well. So please stay tuned for our following webinars, and thank you so much for sharing. Thanks for all participants, and I'll close the webinar, and thank you so much. Good morning and good night.